Now, I think this is a pretty unique case because of the fitness app that was involved. This fitness app actually kind of record exactly what is happening throughout the event, and is exactly what I do, is exactly what I've been trying to tell people to do when they try to solve a crime scene, and that is to reenact the whole crime scene, to figure out what happened and who likely would be the suspect. And yet, even this data showing you what is happening, people still get it wrong, because there's a wrong way to see it and there's a right way to interpret it. And it seems that people are jumping on the wrong way. The wrong way is the prosecutor's way, which is either they could see it, but they chose not to see it, and they were so biased that they decided this is the way it looks like it went down. And everyone else just simply believe them. Just simply say, they are the police, they must be right. They've been analyzing this for months and months, so they must know something that a normal average person wouldn't know. But of course, most of you out there has a problem with the way they interpret this data, because it doesn't make a lot of sense to a lot of you. But for some reason, it seems like everyone decided to ignore it. They simply, because by the end of the trial, all these things about this suspect, or James in this case, came out, and it made him look really bad. The more gossip comes out, the more witness, the more stories about him and what kind of person he is begin to wash away this unreasonable theory that the police has about the crime. And people simply forget it. People just ignore it pretty much. They don't ignore it, but it's not their main priority. It's not their main focus. Their focus now is James and who he is, his character and all that. When really, that should not be the focus to solving a crime. But that's what people do. They like the gossip more than the actual crime itself, how it happened and the reason behind all of it. And so I will tell you why the prosecutor's version of the event is totally way off base. Because if you look, here's a couple of problems with that scenario. If they believe that James was at that place to try and rape a 14-year-old girl, or was trying to pick up a 14-year-old girl, so you can't exactly pick up a girl with your helmet on. You need it off. But nobody on the trail saw him without his helmet, right? So that's kind of odd. And then they tell you he was in this location, because the data shows that April turned around, right? Because he must be right there and he is trying to pick her up, and that's why when she was walking back, she made that last text. And that part doesn't make any sense. Now, if April was harassed at that location and she turns around, why is she turning around to go into a more enclosed area? Why not continue to go forward? Right? Because it's an open space. You would want to be in the open. You wouldn't want to go back into a dark area, a more woody area, because you just been harassed. You almost got kidnapped. That doesn't make any sense. And then when she's continued to walk back, she doesn't call her mom. She doesn't call anybody. She doesn't call her boyfriend. That's it. Just the text, and then she's continued to walk. And then what? Like, she continued to walk forward, and by the point where the crime happened, he came behind her, and why didn't he, if he's coming behind her, why didn't he knock her on the head? Okay, if it wasn't on the head, it was at the front, so she turns around, and he's trying to grab her to do what? Throw her on the bike and take her somewhere? Or what was he thinking? Why would he, was he gonna beat her up, drag her into the wood and try and rape her there? While there's a whole bunch of people passing by and all this? Like, what was he thinking? Why would he do that? I mean, when people try to kidnap somebody or rape somebody, they usually use a van because they want to take them to a place that they're comfortable with, or they can have more control. This area has no control. There's too many people coming and going. Why would he risk that? And there's a dog too. Like, there's too much problem here with this theory, this reasoning, why he would do something like this. And then when all of it is done, why did he not begin to head back to his house? Why did he go into the same area? Why into the same neighborhood? Because he's supposed to be going home anyway. Why not begin to go home and throw the stuff somewhere on his way home, even farther away from this crime scene? So all these things does not add up to the prosecutor's theory. It just does not add up. It doesn't make any logical sense. But people forget all of that. People just ignore it and say, well, look at his past. Look at his history. Look at him. He's not a very nice looking guy, apparently, to most of you. And this is the problem with people judging other people. They don't realize that this person is being accused of murdering someone. And if they're innocent, and even if they're not, what do you expect them to do? Smile? Laugh? Anything they do, they're damned if they do and they're damned if they don't. That's all there is to it. When you accuse someone, they could be insulted. You're telling me I killed this person and I know I didn't? They're not going to have a good face. Like, I don't know if you people realize that. When someone is charged with a murder, and if they're innocent, they're not going to be happy. And when they are guilty, they're not going to be happy either, because they're going to try and make it seem like they're innocent. So there is no way that you can really truly know when looking at somebody. This is why you should not judge a person by how they look or how they act, because you do not know, truly. And I do not try and do it. I simply, to solve a murder case, I simply look at the crime scene, because the crime scene is the only way you can truly judge who likely did it. DNA might not be there. A body might not be there. But if it's a crime scene, there's always a crime scene. Do you understand? There's always something there if you decide to reenact the crime scene. Because if you reenact that, if you can reenact it reasonable, logical, then it technically should be the correct answer. Because when everything falls into place and all the reasoning makes logical sense, not like this prosecutor's version of the event, then you know that likely is the correct answer. And of course, I wouldn't be doing this video if I didn't have a reasonable, logical explanation to all of this. Right? So, I understand the trial is over. He is convicted. And all of you believe with pretty reasonable logic that he must have done it. Right? But give this man a chance. Give me a chance to try and open your mind. Just give me this opportunity to explain to you what I believe happened. And after I explain it to you, then make your own conclusion. Does the prosecutor's theory makes a whole lot of sense, or does mine make a more reasonable sense? Because there's a wrong way to read something and a right way. Because there is 100 different wrong way to decode a situation, and there's only one right way to decode the situation. And I need to get it perfectly if I want to decode it. If I want to be absolutely sure that this likely is the reason to happen. So here we go. This is what I believe likely happened. So as April is walking her dog on this trail, this guy on the bike likely passed her or seen her and noticed that she is using an iPhone, likely an iPhone. And as a young man, sometimes they do things like steal other people's stuff because they don't have the opportunity to have it or to own it, and so they want it, but they can't either afford it or something, or someone didn't want to get it for them, so they take it. So I believe this is the reason. And on that day, this young man decided, here's an opportunity to get an iPhone. And so what he did is he waited right here, because the reason he did that, and he didn't wait at the end of the place that the prosecutor think he was there when April was returning. I believe he waited here. Why? Because there's a path to escape, or there's more option for him to escape. when he gets what he wanted. So when April was beginning to approach this person on a bike, a motorcycle, she was on the right side because she can see that he's wearing a helmet. She doesn't know who he is, and so she just want to be cautious. But I think at this moment, he likely hear her coming and either signal to her that he either wanted to know if she has the time. He could say something, but there's also another chance he doesn't want to say anything, and he likely use his hand to indicate if she knows the time or something. Somewhere along that line, he got it close enough to begin to grab her bag. And this is where I believe all these things are happening. So he tries to grab her bag or her iPhone or one or the other. And of course she resisted. She was trying to fight back, likely believing that she can handle herself. There is a chance that she tried to kick him between the leg. Either she was successful or half successful, or whatever the case is, something really anger this person on the bike. There's a really there's a struggle, and he either got kicked or was hit pretty hard, and he reacted. And how did he react? Well, they say that she got hit in the eye, right, with something like a helmet, and obviously he's not going to take his helmet off to hit her with it, because he doesn't want her to see his face. So what else would you be able to do with a helmet on? Well, if you can think about it, then it's pretty simple. He headbutted her. He used his head, and with very violent force, he headbutted her. She likely flew back and probably let go of the bag, and at the same time he is still angry that she kicked him or hurt him in some way, and of course he decided to punish her for it. He either stamped her, like she either fell when she got hit on the head or in the eye with the helmet by the headbutt, and either she fell or something, or he pushed her, or whatever the case may be, but he decided to stamp on her more, and with very violent force, because he was so angry at what she did at the moment, right? He was very angry, so things happened so fast that she pretty much passed out, I believe, or something. She's not moving anymore. He's likely see the open spot, and likely dragged her body and just threw it down, because it's either his instinct reacting, and he doesn't want people, because he knows people pass by and forth all the time, so he wanted to throw her down this section, and then he decides to leave with the iPhone and her bag. And as he's leaving, because he's either hurt or something, he's either on the bike, doesn't want to make too much noise, whatever the case is in this situation, he is not riding away. He's slowly leaving. And so he is leaving, and he's either leaving and playing with the phone, trying to either make sure that the phone doesn't go off, or there's a password or anything. He is, because he got this new iPhone, right? He got what he wanted, but at the same time his anger is still in there. It's beginning to dissolve. He's beginning to realize what just happened. And as he's looking through this phone, there's a pretty good chance he's seeing photo of April, and either his conscience is beginning to come into play, and at this point I believe that he is not a killer, but a young man who just wanted an iPhone. He just wanted to take the iPhone. He did not want to hurt April. He just wanted this iPhone. And when he's playing with it and he sees that there's pictures of April, and guilt must have begin to enter his mind, and also fear of all this, fear that somehow people are gonna find out it's him, because there's people seeing him on the trail. And so he needed a plan, because when you do something like try to steal somebody's stuff, you're pretty clever. You think of things to do it and to commit the crime, or if you were gonna do something, if you were gonna con somebody, you're gonna think of a way to get away with it. So what I believe happened is, as he's going, and when he reaches this section, he turns around. He turns around because he wanted to be sure that either she's alive, or if he should do something. He doesn't know exactly yet. He's walking back, and then something hits him. Something tells him, okay, maybe I should send a text to, well, his either a photo or a phone number that he sees all the time on this phone. So he decided to text this person, which happened to be the boyfriend of her at the time, the boyfriend of April at the time. And so he texts this number, and he says, I think I almost got kidnapped, right? Oh my God, or whatever. So he texts this, thinking that, okay, I gotta try and do something to make people think it's something else. So this is what I think happened, and this is why it wasn't April that did this text. I think it's the killer. So the killer decided to continue to go, and obviously he's very cautious. There's a part where I think he decided to move back and then move forward again. So, or it could be an error on the data, but whatever it is, I believe it's him who is beginning to return to the crime scene. And so what he did is, he decided that, okay, I need to figure out this, because this is not what is supposed to happen. The only thing that's supposed to happen is for me to take this iPhone and ride off with it, not hurt anybody or not kill anybody. So he's not sure if she's dead. He's not sure of anything, and so he's cautious as he's beginning to walk back to this crime scene. And obviously maybe Penny, the dog, is likely barking or doing something, and he's worried. He knows that people can be coming at any time, so he's approaching. And at this point he sees that she's not moving, or it does not look like she can get up. And at this time he decides to call someone either he trusts, to figure this out with him, figure this problem out with him. So he tries once, and then he tries again, and then he tries the third time, which he wasn't successful. So, and at this time, he's walking around trying to figure out what to do, and the dog is still either barking or doing something. So I think he decided to go into this section where April was and takes off the helmet. Why did he take it off? Because either he's trying to calm the dog down, or at the same time he's trying to think clearly. So when he takes it off, he can think more clearly. So he's walking around trying to calm the dog, and at the same time figuring out what should he do in this situation, right? And so he decided if he texts that, then he needs to make it look like she is being raped or something like that, because when someone kidnaps a young girl, that's likely what their motive is. So he is not stupid. He is a pretty clever young man. So what he did is, of course, I don't know, they say that she could have been strangled, so I don't know if this is the time he sees her moving or something. I can't really say. I'm not sure exactly how she died, but likely with the head injury and the stomping, being out there for a couple of hours, because a body is it's very hard to, I think, kill a person if you don't if they're not hit in the right place, or either if they're not strangled or something, because people do not die that easy. There's survival where you fall and you hit your head and you still survive for hours. So I think that there's a chance he could have strangled her at this time, because he didn't want her to get up, because he's already deciding that she needs to look like she's been kidnapped and raped and all that. And so that's why April was found the way she was found. And there's this other thing about the dog. Why was the collar of the dog missing? And so when I run this scenario and I see what he's trying to do, and I realize that he must be a dog lover. He doesn't want to kill the dog. He decided that he's going to take the collar off, because either it has an identification on the dog, on the collar, or any of that. So if he takes it off and this dog decides to walk around or go somewhere else, no one's going to know whose dog it is. It's going to be just a stray dog, right? It doesn't belong to anybody. So I think this is the reason. He did not expect Penny, the dog, to stay there and protect April or stay with April. So I think when he took that collar, he probably put it away, put it in his pocket. He didn't want to throw it anywhere around here, because if someone finds it, then there's a chance they're going to know who it is, right? So that's what I think. That's the reason why he took the collar. And the reason he's not a killer also is he didn't want to kill the dog. I mean, he could have silenced the dog. And that's the other thing about James, about the theory that James did. Why didn't, if it was the dog that was kind of making him can't rape April, then why doesn't he just silence the dog? I mean, tie him up or choke him to death, right? But obviously that theory doesn't make any logical sense. But here this young man decided that's what he was going to do. And he's still walking around trying to figure every possible way to play this, to create this this crime scene. So he's walking, and he's, and then finally he decides he needs to leave. So when he leaves, he throws the bag out, but the whole purpose of all this is to have the iPhone. He wanted the iPhone. So he kept the iPhone. But when he went, and when he's riding away, he goes to where his natural instinct go. When you're in a panic, you do things automatically. So I think where the first place he stopped at is likely either his home or somewhere he trusts, right? Somewhere he knows, familiar with. He's very familiar with. So there's a good chance if the police looked at this house, there's a good chance he's connected somewhere there. And then he decided to go to another house. Either this is a friend's house or something. This is someone he knows. He stops there for a few minutes, right? Either he's trying to call someone or do something, because he stops there. There must be a reason why he stopped there. Or it could be nothing. I don't know. But that should be checked out. That house there, in that location. And so, but something inside of him decided to say, okay, he can't keep this phone. It's too risky, right? So that's why he decided, okay, he needs to throw it somewhere a little farther. And of course he went to that place where they found the phone, and he threw it there. Because if he didn't throw it there, then we wouldn't have found all this. They wouldn't have found all this information, the tracking, the app, the fitness app. But at the same time, if he kept it, he would have went home with it, and we would have found out his actual home. But this is how it played out, right? And so, as you can see, once you do the crime scene scenario with reasonable, logical explanation, everything will fall into place. Everything makes logical sense. But when you try to make it logical sense in the wrong theory, then you're going to have all these missing holes. It doesn't add up. Everything will be all, it's just like a lie. It will have hole. It will not make logical sense. It doesn't add up. But when you get it correct, when you can put it together correctly, everything makes logical sense. And the first witness who saw this person as she's riding a bike, and she saw him in this location, in the wood, is likely the correct one. This is probably the young man, not James, this person. Okay, this whole person, the hair, the eye, the nose, the mouth, the shape of the face, not just the eye, like the prosecutor wants you to believe. Okay, trust me, when you want to believe someone is guilty, it doesn't even matter if his eye doesn't match. It could be his ear, it could be just his hair, it could be just his chin. Either way, once you are biased and you believe it's him, there's not much you need to believe it's him. That's why judging people when it comes to a crime case, you will more than likely be wrong. You are pretty much guessing. And I'm telling you, if you do these scenarios, if you play it out in your mind, you can see how it went down. I just hope that you hear me out and give James a chance, some hope for his freedom. I believe he's an innocent man who is wrongly accused because people are very biased in nature, by nature. And here's another thing about the bike. I don't know why people never thought of this, or maybe they did, but they didn't want to risk it, right? They didn't want to do this. They didn't want to reenact this. They have a video of this bike passing a security camera, and they have James' bike, and they have James. They know how high he is, they know how big he is, they know this is his bike that they believe he used. So why didn't they do this scenario? Why did they not take his bike and put it in this location with the security camera pointing at it and try and see if it matched up? This would be a great opportunity to do something like this. But I'm not sure if they did try this and it didn't work out or something. But that is something to consider. No, wouldn't that be reasonable enough to do? But yet, even the defendant, his lawyer didn't even come up with this idea. Like, what is going on here? Right? I want to know the truth. I want to know if that's the bike. Right? And again, a bike, I don't know if you realize, but a lot of them is pretty similar, but it can't be perfectly similar, right? So it's like a fingerprint or DNA. Pretty, there should be something there that is different. If there isn't, then it must be the same bike. So you gotta look at that. You gotta try and do that. But I believe it can't be James. I believe that is this young man. And if they are not so biased, they would have checked these houses more reasonable, with more belief that it could be someone else. But I think because they're so fixed into believing that it's James that they likely didn't even bother to check the phone number that that this killer decided to call 3 times. They say that it was a company and the phone number isn't being used or something, but they didn't go any further. Maybe someone in there knows. It's a company, it's pretty big, so he must be calling somebody. So if you people believe my theory and can see this reasonable theory, then hopefully you can convince someone out there to check these things out more carefully and not be biased in thinking it's just James. This has to be the correct killer. It can't be James. It needs to be this young man, because James wouldn't want to take some little girl's iPhone, right? It just doesn't make logical sense for this for James. I don't believe he's a poor man or a young man who just wanted somebody's iPhone. So I'm asking you to please give this video a chance, run it through your mind, and help this innocent person and get the right killer, because the killer is still on the loose. He is likely feeling really bad, but he's obviously not going to turn himself in, and people around him likely are not going to bother to think too much about it. If they got somebody, then they're not gonna go out of the way and try and say anything if they're not forced to. So I am asking you to give this person, James, a chance to relook at him again.